two curious readings. You know, it's right and good for us as American Christians to be so grateful to live in the United States. It is right and good to reflect back on the truly amazing story that narrates the courageous risks and journeys that our ancestors took to both build and then later join their lives to this nation. It is right and good to take pride in how our little experiment in democracy has come down through the years. And it is right and good to be in the midst of this worshiping community, to be reminded that as followers of Jesus, we must be ever vigilant that never, not ever, friends, can we allow ourselves to be seduced into forgetting that we belong first and foremost to the God of the universe, and only secondarily to the nation of our birth. Hear me now. I'm not saying this to in any way downplay our rightful national pride, but clearly by your presence in worship, are we not saying that our primary allegiance is to the ministry of working with God to make more visible God's reign, God's kingdom, which Christ affirmed is right here, right now, in the midst of you? Are we not called to a solidarity with all people, all God's people, the family of humanity into which we were baptized brothers and sisters across all boundaries? There is no contradiction in terms when we are proud to be Americans and go by the name of Christ. No contradiction, except when we believe that going by the name American entitles us to some special privilege with God or some enhanced position relative to global brothers and sisters. Friends, going by the name of Christ requires of us sacred, special, sacrificial responsibility. So look with me at these two great narratives. The story of mighty warrior Naaman and his disfiguring disease of leprosy, and Jesus and the ministry of the 70. So Naaman first. You've heard this story endless times in your years in worship. Let me point out a couple things that jumped out at me. Naaman is a warrior for Aram, and Aram is a nation that is most typically an enemy of Israel. They happen to be, at this point in the story, in a truce. The Lord had given victory to Aram, scripture says, through mighty Naaman. The Lord, Yahweh, the God of all people, Israel's God, the story says, had given the enemy a victory. So we are to know that Naaman already has a special relationship with God despite this disfiguring disease. 2, that it is from an unnamed slave girl that the doorway for the cure is given. That's so typical of our God, to use that which seems not at all logical to be the entree for God's Spirit to work. You gotta love the kings in this story. They respond as kings in all political times respond. The king of Aram sends a letter to the king of Israel that a cure will be found for his mighty general. I love it. Naaman empties his bank account, presuming that either he will lubricate this process to buy his cure, or potentially, maybe, hoping against hope, he will offer these gifts in gratitude. We come to Israel, where the king reads the letter and wails in fear, "Am I God to cure this man? This is a setup. I'm in a no-win situation. What do I do now? This is a trick." So word gets to the prophet Elisha, and he assures the king, "Don't worry. probably wanted to say, did you forget about me? But he says, don't worry, send the man to me. So Naaman arrives, and instead of being greeted by the royal prophet, Elisha has sent this no-named messenger out to tell him, go dip yourself in the Jordan River 7 times. A fool's errand, mighty Naaman must be thinking. Dip in the River Jordan? Where's the mighty display of power that's appropriate for a person of my stature? And so quickly his emotions must travel from wild hope that maybe he would finally be cured, through despair that probably this wasn't going to happen, to anger. The rivers of home are far better than this stupid, muddy creek Jordan. And then those underlings, again, in a similar way that the slave girl brought the initial entree about, those unnamed servants quickly grasp the situation and they craftily play to Naaman's sense of himself. If you'd been asked to do something hard, we know you would have charged right out and done it. So heck, why not try this little simple thing? And of course, he does, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a young man. You know, if this story of freedom is about anything, if this story of freedom is about anything on our 4th of July, it's about being free of the presumptions of status and reputation, of our expectations of what is the right way to be treated because of who we are and where we come from. Here, in this story, God works through the unexpected. The little ones, the unnamed ones, heck, even the muddy river. While the mighty ones, they're humbled, but they're also healed. How important a model is that for our participation in this global work of bringing in the reign of Christ. And here's the larger lesson about real freedom.